Instagram handle?
Double Dinner.
Double Dinner? Where'd you get that?
There was this cool cat that I know who was always looking for a second meal, and I really resonated with that because I'm always hungry.
You're always hungry. Well, why is that? Is it because you ride your bike so much?
I ride my bike a lot, and also I think it speaks to more of a compulsive nature.
Compulsive, huh? Well, tell us a little bit about what kind of things that you obsess over.
Well, you talked about bikes, and I love riding bikes around. That's changed for me over the years. Used to race bikes, used to ride bikes for work, and now really it's something that gets me into a flow state. I love the mechanics of bicycles. I think that there's just something innately beautiful about them. But also, I obsess about art, and I have a fairly fairly well developed art practice. Also, speaking of flow states, that's something that I find myself in frequently through that practice, through the act of creation.
That's amazing. What kind of riding do you do?
It's a lot of point A to point B, getting around town. Recently I have woollier types of riding, off-road, exploring, some more remote places, being a little bit more self-sufficient.
Cool. Can you can you tell us about some of the articles that you wrote for Cheechable around adventure cycling?
Yeah. Some of those, were about adventures, misadventures, really learning as I go. And, one of my favorite articles was about going to an ayahuasca retreat in a remote location in southern Oregon, and, riding my bicycle there, and then, doing the retreat itself, and then riding my bicycle back. And that in its own right was a pretty wild time. And, just really challenging myself and writing about it.
Like, I love your work, so I get really excited to hear you talk about it. I wonder if you can tell us about some of the collections. So you've been ramping up your practice, right? So you had some stuff in New York, that was cool, and I think you were experimenting with your style more or less, but I don't know if you felt like a lot of confidence in like, I'm an artist, this is my practice, this is my voice, but I feel like over the past 5 years you've really identified that. And yeah, can you tell us like what kind of collections that you've built, and what, or even just the current collection you're working on?
Yeah. The current collection is, that's kind of expansive, and I think that's one that's going to keep going for a while. And it's really working around the three subjects of death, desire, and dysphoria. Now, some of that is represented in sculptural paintings, jewelry work, fashion, digital work as well. And that's been kind of a slow build, really. Some of my older work really, it touched on that, but I wasn't necessarily confident in that path. And really the important piece here is that all of that work is really meaningful in its representation of who I am and who I want to present to the world at large, the community at large. I feel like these are things a lot of folks think about and they deal with in their own ways, and it's something that you know it's an ongoing conversation where the death piece isn't necessarily a specific death, though there is a piece of that, and but it's also like the death of ego, the death of a you know what you held on to as identity, and that plays into desire. Maybe a person's hung up on getting that second dinner. They have their desires that are overwhelming, that are these overarching driving forces. They become dependencies, but they also form who you are. Whether it's substance or sex or whatever the fuck, and you know that really does inform a lot of my work. And then the dysphoria piece is really reconciling my psyche with my physical self. Who am I? How for so many years I've just felt very alien, and that's where I'm reconciling all of these pieces in this body of work. And it's, as I say, an ongoing conversation, and it takes a lot of different forms. One-off zines and written pieces, or just going out and riding my bike and leaving all of that at the doorstep for at least a little while. Okay, yeah, this is my studio that I've been using for the past few years. It's just a little home studio, and it's been actually really great. I have managed to produce a ton of work out of here. Currently in the process of packing everything up and moving to the East Coast, to New York. Yeah, so that's all. My plants are kind of sharing some space right now with what all I've got going on, but that's figured I'd show some of what I get into while while it's still fairly organized. So yeah, this is my work. I work mostly in clay and plaster. I like the idea of my work being a little bit more dynamic, a little bit more dimensional. This one is comprised of wood scavenged from pallets and some blackberry vines, stylized blackberry vines made from clay. And some works in progress here. These are kind of a cool one right now, where I've got these necklaces that I've been making, these collars. Really been enjoying this process, making them out of cast resin. A little kitschy sort of gothic horror, but also really tying into the kind of candy colors and flamboyant fluorescence of 90s club kid culture, which I don't know, always has kind of a place in my heart. And Well, we gotta gotta mix it up a little bit too with the old Come Town special. Yeah, more molds and all my supplies. Now this stuff's a lifesaver. Old Durham's, pennies on the dollar. This stuff, rock hard plaster or resin, and currently editing up an episode of Cheechable LIVN. This will be live well before what I'm talking about is live. So, look at that. Look at that. Who's that? Huh? It's Cheech. Well, I'm sure y'all are getting dizzy by now, so I'm gonna wrap this up, but thought I'd show you around. Oh, yeah. Before I go, yeah, this is an old painting from 2003. Yeah, I used to go into abandoned houses and take photos and then make paintings based off of those. Well, I don't know. I guess I'll see y'all next time. I'll show you the new studio setup when I get cranking along in New York. It's gonna be pretty freaking rad. All right. In 2010, I worked at a bike shop in North Portland, Cascade Cycling. It was an interesting shop in as much as we offered basic service, dirt floor mechanics, really, nothing extreme, but the variety of folks that would come through our doors was eclectic. We were known to fix or try to fix anything: bikes, bike-shaped objects, wheelchairs, unicycles, dog carts, you name it, we'd try it. Not with any great enthusiasm, but it was still something that it felt like a cool challenge, and in the face of the environment, why not just throw some more weirdness into the mix? Also, I changed a ton of flat tires in those days. I'd say 10 a day. People love throwing bottles in the street, and we reaped the benefits. The owner of the shop was older, eccentric, to say the least, and he was a tough one to figure out where the truth ended and the land of fantasies began. Perpetually drunk on jug wine, tripping on a heady mix of psychedelics and whatever other homespun remedy he'd cooked up for any number of ailments that he seemed to perpetually collect. He was interesting, a total fucking liability, bragging outright, making empty promises to the local denizens that we inevitably would have to fulfill. The heroin dealers from 160th and Halsey would come through on a daily basis with demands that we air up their tires and lube their chains while shoplifting patch kits and just being genuinely disreputable. And then there'd be the trust fund kids and, the new to the neighborhood folks that were buying cheap and hoping to start a little family or something like that. And we were always just antagonistic to everybody, the employees, me. We'd listen to noise music and decorate the place with whatever the fuck we felt like decorating it with. Not even remotely cycling specific. And customers would come through and they'd get spooked out, or they'd get a real kick out of it, or they'd ply us with beer and they'd hang out and drink, or we'd smoke a bunch of weed and hang out with the cab drivers in the evening from down the street that would hang out at the Ethiopian restaurant. And, it was a good fit for a time in my life where I felt pretty erratic, but also really free. And I didn't need a lot of money. You didn't need a lot of money at that time to live in Portland. I'm glad it only lasted for a few years, but it was really kind of an amazing time. We'd go out for mountain bike rides at night, or we'd go to the cross races, or we'd get wrapped up in, something with the zoo bombers, or any number of madcap bullshit schemes and adventures. And we were young enough and resilient enough to where we could bounce off the pavement and feel semi-okay through our hangovers the next day. And my hands hadn't yet become crippled from wrench slips and stubborn tires and, all the rusted bullshit that I had tasked myself with repairing instead of sending folks on their merry way. No, I don't think I would ever trade that experience. I got a job somewhere semi-legitimate before the shop closed, and then the writing inevitably was on the wall and the shop closed shortly thereafter. But yeah, it was a wild time. All the crazy bikes and the crazy people that rode them, and that's what it's about, is doing your thing and riding and being human, or being inhuman but interesting.
Summertime's dear kiddies, and it's time to take a trip.
Yeah, this is where I used to live, back in, early 2000s, I think. Yeah, that's not the key. Let's see, where's the key? Maybe this is the key? Yep, there we go. Yeah, used to heat with a wood and, just... I don't know, man. This place is all fucked up. But yeah, lived here for the longest time. Now it's just kind of a glorified workshop, but, I don't know. One can dream about turning this into something. But yeah, I'm gonna go see what's what. I think I've got some old artwork here kicking around. It's been, dang, yeah. All right, well, let's keep on moving. It's not in bad shape. I mean, stairs are a little wonky, but I think I'm gonna be okay. Yes, real old art. Fuck, man. 2000? Jesus. Maybe I should edit that out. There's the piece. There we go. That's the one I'm looking for. Yeah. Yeah, I might grab that oddball table, and that's a good table. Gonna use that. That'll be good. Some old silk screen shit. Gonna grab that. Drum set. Not gonna grab that. But yeah, that's the Folly. That's what we used to call it. That's what its name is. And grab this fucking behemoth. All right. Well, onward.
You feel so sad. You gotta take a trip into a world so glad. A world of frogs and green fountains and flying dogs and silver cats and emerald rats and purple clouds and faceless crowds and walls of glass that never pass, and pictures hanging upside down. You won't ask, where you are. You and your girl.